If you're into retro, a system that can play old DOS games is something you may want to consider. In just 15 years with Moore's Law and the advancement of the processor from 386 PC in 1985 all the way to the Pentium II in 2000, it's not always easy to know what the best retro gaming PC you want is. You may want to play games like Duke Nukem 3D and Quake, but a slower 486 won't handle those as good as a Pentium Pro or Pentium II class processor. On the flip side, if you want to play older DOS games, a faster machine may render them unplayable. So for me, the sweet spot for PC DOS gaming has to be 1995 to around 1998 or so. That's when you were getting fantastic DOS-based games that were running on Pentium Pro and Pentium II class hardware that were running at frame rates and levels that were just unheard of on 486-based machines. And I'm talking about games like Terminal Velocity, Magic Carpet, Dungeon Keeper, Duke Nukem 3D, Quake, Hexen 2, games that utilize the Quake engine, for example, were really awesome games. And when I think about putting together a machine for playing old DOS retro games, I'm thinking about the mid-90s. So a Windows 95 or Windows 98 machine that has a fast 2D graphics card, as well as potentially a 3D effects type Voodoo card for 3D games, would be something that I would be targeting. Now, one machine that I do have in my possession is the Dell Dimension XPS 266. It's a Pentium II running at 266 megahertz. Let's go ahead and check out this machine and see how well it runs and performs and plays those classic DOS games from the mid-90s. So this is the Dell Dimension XPS 266, and it's my choice for all-round best retro gaming PC. This PC is stacked with features. Released in 1997, it's an early Windows PC that has quite a bit of expandability out of the box. My model is the 266 MHz variant. It comes complete with a Pentium II Slot 1 processor, 128 MB of RAM installed, Sound Blaster AWE64, Matrox Millennium Graphics AGP card for very fast 2D performance, a network card for getting this machine on the internet, and an external SCSI card. Now, if you look at the front of the unit, there's a lot going on here. We have 3 individual floppy disk drives, a 3.5-inch disk drive, a 5.25-inch floppy disk drive. I use this for creating x68000 and PC98 floppy disk images. Also a Zip 100 disk drive. And as with any computer of this era, there's a DVD and CD-ROM drive. The computer also has the usual power and reset switch on the front of the case, but these aren't soft reset and power switches. In other words, if you press the power switch, it'll turn the machine off immediately. Same thing with resetting the machine. On the back of the machine is where things get a little more interesting. We have 2 PS2 connectors for both mouse and keyboard, and underneath are 2 USB 1.0 ports. Remember, this computer came out in 1997, and surely this has to be one of the first machines with USB. What this means is plugging in a USB mouse works in Windows 98. Amazing. I tried a USB flash drive and unfortunately did not support it. However, there's probably a driver that somewhere someone has written for this. You'll notice 2 ports for fans on the back of the case. One is the standard power supply fan, the other is for the Pentium II fan exhaust. You see, the Slot 1 Pentium IIs came bolted with a passive heatsink, but no cooling fan. So the addition of the fan in this case is used to eject any warm air. An interesting design choice. Opening up the PC, we see a mess of cables as normally found of a PC of this era. The motherboard also contains 3 SIM slots. In this configuration we have 2x32 megs and a single 64 meg making up 128 megabytes of memory. This machine can be expanded to a maximum of 1 gigabyte, but for me, the most interesting thing is the Slot 1 processor. Intel introduced Slot 1 in 1997 for a way to make processor installation simple, more like an expansion add-on. While this was certainly the case, Slot 1 processors were expensive to manufacture. I mean, look at this thing. The huge chunk of metal heatsink attached to it doesn't make it very practical at all. But it's so cool to see a processor like this in 2018. Still, while Slot 1 and Slot 2 were very popular for a while, it was superseded with the more traditional Socket 370. Although the system came with a Windows 95 sticker on it, it's actually bundled with Windows 98 2nd Edition. With the included network card, this means connecting this machine to the internet with a wired Ethernet cable is trivial. What's a little trickier, however, is web browsing. With the bundled Internet Explorer version 6, practically no sites load anymore due to IE6 not supporting SSL version 3. But you can browse the internet with Opera, specifically the last supported 32-bit version, version 10, that works with Windows 98 2nd Edition. To my surprise, it actually loads many modern websites correctly. Here's my Facebook page, for example, and here's Amazon. But the catch is, pages take a long time to load. My Facebook page took about 5 minutes, for example. This is given the fact that I've surely used up the entire 128 megabytes of RAM, and I'm using a single-core 266 MHz processor, and Windows is resorting to swap space on my machine. So as you can see, it's not really much fun, and you're not really going to use this for anything serious ever. But if you want to grab an abandonware game or free software, for example, Opera will do the job nicely. But let's be clear, this machine is for playing games, and that's the main purpose. The Matrox Millennium 2 card is a very fast 2D graphics card, and although I've had the urge to install a 3D Effects Voodoo 3 card, I prefer to play all my DOS games with a software renderer, and the Matrox card is a good choice for that. There were many fantastic DOS games that came out in the mid to late 90s. Here is just a few pics of some of my favorites and ones worth checking out if you are thinking about picking up an old retro DOS gaming machine. Alright guys, I'm going to leave it at that. Let me know what you thought about the Dell Dimension XPS 266 and this look back at classic DOS gaming from the mid to late 90s. I've had so much fun revisiting these games, and I'd be interested in your thoughts about if this is something that you're interested in. Do you play old DOS games? Do you prefer to use something like DOSBox, which is a very viable emulator? It runs a lot of old DOS games. Now, my particular machine, the Dell Dimension XPS 266, I originally bought this machine to copy x68000 floppy disks on the floppy disk drive. So I didn't really think about utilizing it for old DOS-based games, not until years later when I started to really get some nostalgia to play some old DOS games that I used to play when I was back in college, back in my early 20s. And all of a sudden I realized, hey, I've got this really awesome machine that really fits in the era of games that I want to play. So I was very happy at that, and I picked up a couple of games like Crusader No Remorse and some other ones, and really had a blast with this machine. Well, alright guys, let me know what you thought about this video in the comments below. Now I do have one announcement before I go. I want to say a big thank you to everyone for 40,000 subscribers. I can't believe the growth we've had over the last 12 months, so thank you from the bottom of my heart. It means so much to me that we're continuing to grow this channel. I don't even know what I'm doing on this channel half the time. I just love making quality content for you guys, and you guys really seem to be enjoying it, especially over the last 6 months or so. So I'm going to continue doing what I do every single week, and let me know what you want to see more of. We've got Amiga videos coming up, we've got more retro gaming videos coming up, we've got more Xbox videos coming up, so I know the Xbox fans are very happy as well. So let me know what you want to see going forward, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you again for 40K, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye for now.